Welcome back to the final part, of episode 1. And we're ending with an absolute fire of a team. They're projected to finish last in the conference. They're coming over from NCAA D2 head coach Dave Moore's West Georgia Wolves. Now, I'm going to get into their starting five. This team is going to be a defensive problem this year, like for other teams. Their defense is going to be good this year, and that's going to, I think, help a lot in their first year success. Now, starting five: Demetrius Johnson II, who comes from Highland Community College in Illinois. That's JUCO D1. They also have Taurus Watson, who was also in JUCO D1 2 years ago. He was at Wofford, where he didn't play last year. Taurus was there 3 years in JUCO 3 years ago. He's been at Wofford ever since. Hasn't really been able to crack that lineup at all in the SoCon. So now he's moving over to West Georgia. Plenty of opportunity here. Got some guys that come back from last year. You got Colton Griffin, who is going to be, he's one of their captains. His brother, Michael Griffin, is also on the team, plays a bit of a smaller role. But also two great defenders. Tamari Relaford, another good defender. He is a returner as well. Of course, I say returner. These guys all played D2 last year. Then you got Ricky Ballard, who also played in D2 last year. He comes from the Lynn Fighting Knights. That also is the Southern Conference, where Rollins played last year and is continued to play. Then you got guys like Malcolm Noel, Brady Hardawig, Cameron Merritt. Hardawig and Merritt redshirted last year, so they clearly have some skill. You only typically redshirt guys who are freshmen if they got future potential, rather than redshirting some walk-ons that kind of go out in and out in 4 years and play 5 games over their entire career there. The Coach Moore said a lot of really good defensive teams about a lot defensive things, about a lot of guys. And I also didn't mention Kyrick Davis, 17 points, 8.5 rebounds as a 6'5" guy, and 4 assists in JUCO last year for South Georgia. I think this team is not nearly as skilled offensively as some. I think they're going to be better defensively than others. And one thing I want to talk about too is that this team has a heck of a start to the season. Start off against Mississippi State, then they play against Georgia Tech, and then they play against USF, which obviously some very sad news recently about Amir Abdur-Rahim tragically losing his life during an operation. So prayers up to them. And all those involved, his family, his friends, the team, everyone he's touched, because I really enjoyed the way that he coached. We'll get maybe more on that in another episode. But it's either going to make or break them. They're going to know what the D1 level's like immediately, and then they're either going to crumble from that, or they're going to say, okay, we got to step the heck up. And we got like, if they play and figure out what it means to be a D1 team, they might end up being a problem in the A-SUN their first year, kind of like Bellarmine was. Or they could be the bottom team, like everyone's thinking they're going to be.
Right. Well, Dave, while Ed or the coach for Dave Moore, 103 and 68 record over the last 5 years. So he certainly knows what he's doing. The last 2 seasons, including winning their conference. So definitely and he spent 11 years assisting Mark Schmidt of St. Bonaventure at the D1 level. So he knows the level of play here. Pretty good successful program with the Bonnies.
And the Bonnies are a competitive team in the A-10 every single year, pretty much.
Absolutely, they sure are. Yep. At a small school that has to recruit differently. So, yep, absolutely. So yeah, I don't have that much to add from a player perspective, as to what's going on. I look at it as it's a first year program, obviously trying to build into something with not much expectation. Love the idea that they're building from a defensive mindset forward. I think that you do great things that way.
I mean, you have to do that when you're a less skilled team, or is not. You have to start with it. You're not going to win games by outscoring people when you're not a as skilled team as other teams, or at least on paper, a not as skilled team. You got to start from the defensive end.
Right. Even Queens, some of the quotes I read about Queens, and this isn't a Queens episode, but they were talking about they do the simples. They try to reduce their playbook and their play to basics. It sounds, I'm not trying to make it sound demeaning here, but to try to do the basic stuff really well, and then build out from there.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same kind of
yeah. Start with the fundamentals, and then the extra stuff will come. And so, right mindset when starting a D1 program. I didn't mention Xavier Shigag as well. They did have there's a couple other guys in their recruiting class. But Xavier Shigag is the one that stands out to me. He might contribute. I think he's going to start as an out-of-rotation guy and then work his way into the rotation by the end of the year.
Right.
But, so there's a low recruiting class. Obviously, not a single guy on this team other than Taurus Watson that has D1 experience, and Taurus Watson has, I think, 2 games of D1 experience. So, a very unknown roster, Dad. It's kind of given away. If people have been watching every single episode up to this point, they know where we think these teams are finishing.
Right.
So you got them in the last place spot. Why?
I got them in last. Yeah. Yep. I don't have any reason to not start them at the bottom spot, just given the lack of experience at this level. And honestly, some lack of information. How does everything translate? It's such a wild card. How does a player that's playing in JUCO or high school or D2 translate to the D1 level? You never know. Some are going to accelerate, some are going to hit it, some are going to struggle, take a while to find out, and some are going to struggle and maybe not find out, maybe never improve. So we just don't know what that's going to be in this case here. So so I start them at 12th and see where they go.
Yeah. I mean, I predict them low as well. I have them 11th, and the only reason I have them above Bellarmine, I talked about it in the Bellarmine episode, so go check that out. They're going to be a good defensive team, as I mentioned. They're gonna do a lot. They rebound the ball really well. All their starting 5 guys: Demetrius Johnson, 4 rebounds per game as a point guard. Kyrick Davis, 8.5 as a shooting guard. Colton Griffin, 7 as a small forward. Ricky Ballard actually only had 4 as a power forward, but then you got guys that have been making up for it. And Relaford in a small role last year, in the 7th man role, but he wasn't a starter. 4.7. So this team's I think they're gonna be gritty, and I think that's gonna push them over the hump compared to a team like Bellarmine.
Team with an off shooting night, and then you get and the momentum goes, right?
Yeah, I think they're kind of like Central Arkansas for me. They're a team that I think is expected to finish low and could end up being middle of the pack by the end of the year.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So that's going to conclude the A-SUN preseason parts of episode 1. We've finished all 12. Please let us know what you think about how this A-SUN season is going to play out. Let us know down below. Let us know in each of the videos that you've watched what your team prediction is for that team. We'd love to hear your input. If you want to see what our official standings are, if you haven't seen every single video, first off, go watch them. But if you haven't been able to get a hard copy on paper, if you want a visual look, you can check out our Instagram page as Acker Basketball on Instagram. And we'll also be putting that out on X, same thing, Acker Basketball. Until then, take care. We're really looking forward to the start of the season coming up on Monday. And there should be some big things coming up. Tune in next week to our first episode covering more than just these previews. We're going to actually cover the gameplay. So be sure to tune in and watch that. Until then, we look forward to hearing from you on what you thought, and take care.